Hello, everybody. Welcome to another incredible episode of TADTalk. It is episode 103. It is Tuesday, which is actually very ironic because I think it's about 103 outside today. It's very hot. But nonetheless, I am here with my co-host today, Julia, who happens to be my beautiful fiance. How are you doing, Julia?
I'm good. How are you?
I am awesome, and I am very excited for today's guest. He's been on an episode of TADTalk before, I think in the first season, but today is all about him. He's such a talented individual and someone I am very lucky to call a friend. And he's very involved with the musical theater world, and you'll know exactly what he's been a part of because of this video. Roll it.
Anything can happen if you let it. Life is sometimes difficult, but you can bet it doesn't have to be so. Changes can be made. You can move a mountain if you use a larger spade. Am I much sensitive, clever, well-mannered, considerate, passionate, charming, as kind as I'm handsome and heir to a throne? You are everything maidens could wish for. Then why do I know the girl must be mad? There's no possible way to describe what you feel when you're talking to your meal. Running away, we'll do it. Why sit around resigned? The trouble is, son, the farther you run, the more you feel undefined. For what you have left undone, and more what you've left behind. This was the moment, the greatest moment of the Some enchanted evening, you may see a stranger. You may see a stranger across a crowded room. There, out in the darkness, a fugitive running, fallen from God, fallen from grace. Long ago I should have seen all the things I could have been. Careless and unthinking, I moved on. Reach the unreachable star.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Chuck Wagner!
Incredible, absolutely incredible. And we're going to talk to him today about everything that made him who he is today and everything he's done. Are you excited for this?
I am.
I'm very excited for this. Please welcome to TADTalk, Chuck Wagner. How are you doing, Chuck?
Thanks. I'm well. Good to see you, Nick.
Good to see you. How are you
I'm
doing?
good. I'm excited. I'm doing well, considering I've been at home longer now than I've ever been.
I loved the house when we first bought it, and now I love coming to the office because I can't wait to get out of there. I've seen the inside
it's good.
Of it so
It's good.
much.
Yeah, I stay outside doing the yard work, but I do enjoy there's something about the sheltering that's kind of been liberating. This is unprecedented times.
It really is, and we're doing what needs to be done, but you know what? We'll be out of this soon. I can feel it, hopefully, and we'll be back at what we love to do sooner than we know.
Exactly.
But we're going to start TAD Talk, as we always do, with 3 random quick-fire questions, and Julia is going to give those to you right now.
Right.
Okay, Chuck. If one fictional character could become a real person, who would you want it to be?
Well, that is an excellent question. Well, no, I mean, this is if I could pick one, it would be Superman. But if we're hypothesizing in the realm of magical fantasy, I'd like it to be Kal-El prior to the destruction of Krypton, and together we could stop the destruction.
That's a good answer. I like that.
Dove into great detail with that one. I love it. Who would you pick?
Huh.
That was a pretty random answer, too. I'm trying to give you the full random.
Who would I pick? That's a tough one.
I know it's tough.
Winnie the Pooh.
Oh, that would be nice.
I would love to just like walk around with him, carry him on my back or something as a little friend. How cute would that be?
No, that would be
I love
awesome.
that.
Have you guys read The Tao of Pooh?
What's that?
Have you read The Tao of Pooh?
I have not.
Oh, you should. It's fabulous. It's real. It's a short read. It's beautiful. In fact,
Oh, nice.
here. So it's real. So look for it at your local Amazon.
Absolutely. We just saw the new Christopher Robin movie that came out not too long ago, and I think they did such a great job at giving those characters the life they had when they were first created. I thought it was just incredible.
Yeah, I thought it was beautifully done. And the guy who did the voice to sound like the original Pooh voice did a really beautiful job, too.
Absolutely. All right, moving on.
Big fan.
Okay, number 2. What is a food that you like that other people think is disgusting?
Brussels sprouts.
That's like Nick. Nick hates Brussels sprouts.
I can't do Brussels sprouts.
Yeah, well, they have to be cooked right. The best way to do them, you cut them in half and you roast them until they're just brown. Right, you don't want to black them out. But if you do it quick and do them fresh, so that they're, if you let them steam too long, they get that sour taste.
Yeah.
But if you cook them right, they're really good.
Well, maybe I just haven't had the right Brussels sprouts yet. I think I will try them again. I always will try something again before I say absolutely never again. But
Sure.
I think I'll need to douse it in garlic and lemon and just everything that takes away the taste
They're
of
good with
the actual
bacon.
sprout.
Now here's something that I have tried in my life that I would have thought would be disgusting because they didn't tell me what it was when I first had it, and it is the most amazing thing if it's done properly. It's called sweetbreads. Have you ever had that?
No, what is that?
It's some kind of a gland from a cow. I don't know exactly, but it's exactly. When you think about what it's a gland, I think. That's all I know. It's not, it's not a reproductive gland, I don't think. But I think it's supposed to be something from under the tongue or something, but it melts in your mouth. And when I had it, it's, wow, this is fantastic. Then they told me what it was, and it was like, oh.
I feel like that happened to me with snails. I didn't know what they were, but I loved them. And then somebody said, yeah, it's a snail. And I kind of, I gagged a little bit, but then I was like, you know what, it was good.
So put enough garlic and butter on anything, it's going to be fine.
Exactly. All right, third question.
Okay, last one. If Chuck Wagner had an action figure being sold in stores, what would the catchphrase be when the string on the back is pulled?
Play nice.
Play nice.
I like that.
Is that just in general for the world, or is that like you telling the person playing with that action figure, play nice, don't break me, please?
I have an action figure. I have one.
Is that from Automan?
Automan had an action figure. Yeah, I should Google it. In fact, I could run get it, but I didn't bring it. I should have.
That's so cool.
But doesn't have. It's not a Chatty Cathy one. It doesn't have the pull string on it. But basically, the play nice thing is like when I see all the tension in the world today, and especially between the reds and the blues and the blacks and the whites, it's just everybody's gone yin yang crazy and they're banging, 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 banging. But if we just stop for a second, realize we're all in the same playground, and we would just play nice.
Absolutely.
The world would be better.
Definitely.
Exactly. Or else have a timeout.
Yeah, exactly. Go to the corner. Dunce cap. Well, it's so great having you here today, Chuck. I know I've talked to you one-on-one about all the things you've done throughout your career, whether it's where we met on the Disney cruise ship or when we had lunch in New York City. We've had a lot of time to spend with each other and talk about music. But I know our audience would be very interested to hear, what was your first step into musical theater? What was the first show you ever saw that made you just fall in love with musical theater itself?
Yeah, well, I started when I was 10. I had a fabulous summer where I first went to Disneyland and fell in love with the whole concept of bigger than life entertainment, and then the whole Hall of Presidents thing hooked me on storytelling and the ability. I mean, because if you go to see, or if you watch any of the Disney cartoons, music plays a huge part. So growing up on all of that already hooked me into that musical idea. But then that same fall, I went to New York. I saw the original Broadway cast of the musical 1776, and it was just amazing. Anthony Daniels played John Adams, and Ben Franklin was Ben Franklin to me, and now his name is escaping me. I've known it my whole life. That's a bad sign. But anyway, I was transported by the idea that when the little soldier came out and he's saying, "Mama, look sharp," I'm 10 years old, right? But I'm weeping in the audience. And it was like, oh man, this is really fantastic. So I was really into theater then, and then I got in elementary school there was a play, Adventures in Storybook Land, where I played Captain Hook. I still remember my line. I am Captain Hook, yo-ho, a brave and haughty sailor. Many men I've sent below. Beware this sailor. So I can remember that from the 4th grade. So that, again, is a bad sign.
Your career, though, as soon as you progressed through school and college, and when you made it onto Broadway, I mean, you've had so many notable roles.
I've been lucky. I think, in high school, I had teachers that saw potential in me. So I was probably the youngest Henry Higgins in My Fair Lady. I was Billy in Carousel. Talent Scout saw me in Carousel and brought me into an outdoor drama called Jenny Wiley Summer Music Theater, where we did 4 things in repertory: 1776, Showboat, a play called The Grass Harp, based on Truman Capote's play, which is an amazing musical as well, and 1776. So I got to do 1776, the play that started it all, on July 4th, 1976.
Oh, wow.
And that was pretty amazing. And I was Thomas McKean, because it was the first thing I'd ever done, and the lady who cast me, the director, he said, because I didn't have any experience, he would like to have used me as Thomas Jefferson, but he wasn't sure. And so they needed Thomas McKean. They said they need somebody with a Scotch accent. And I said, well, I watch Star Trek. So I got to do that, and that was fun. So I did that summer. And then the next summer, I went to a place on the Outer Banks of North Carolina called the Lost Colony. And that is a magical place. It is where the first English colonists set foot on the new soil. And the first English-speaking child, Virginia Dare, was born there, but then they disappeared. So the reason they're called the Lost Colony is because they were lost. But on that island, it's the first of several outdoor dramas written by a guy named Paul Green. And it was a huge thing back in the day. They used to have pageants all over the place, but the Lost Colony was the longest running. Back in the day, Andy Griffith played Sir Walter Raleigh before he was ever a big TV star. And I met him while we were there at the colony too. And while I was at the colony is where I met my wife, Susan, and we've been married for like 100 years now.
Oh my God.
So that was pretty great. So the Lost Colony was directed by Joe Layton, who was a big Broadway director. And I had my television series. He called me and he said, look, if you can get to New York by Friday, there's a good chance you can be one of these 3 Musketeers. They're putting this together on Broadway. So I flew to New York and I had an audition and I felt like I did pretty well. Then I got back to California and I got a call from Joe and he says, well, look, are you going to have to come back? They're going to consider you again for one of the Musketeers. He said if he was directing it, which he eventually turned over to direct, he said if he was going to direct it at the beginning, that he would have cast me as D'Artagnan. But they gave that to this guy, Michael Praed from London. But he said if I can get back to New York by Friday again, the next Friday, that there's a good chance that I could be one of the other Musketeers. And they said, well, I said, can't they consider me if I don't go? And he said, well, they can consider you. But you know how it is. Now, like I knew how it was. But anyway, so I knew what he meant. So I got on a plane. I flew to New York. And sure enough, they cast me as Athos. We spent like 7-8 weeks in rehearsal. It was fantastic at 890 Broadway. Amazing thing. We moved to the Broadway Theater. Finally, we opened on a Sunday, and we closed the next Sunday.
Oh, wow.
So that was my Broadway debut. But because I had been Automan, I had really good billing.
Definitely.
And the costumes were beautiful. And it kind of got me in the door. And then from there on, then I did Into the Woods, and I did Les Mis for a long, long time. I did that for On the Road for a year and then came to New York.
and as Javert, and then I did Beauty and the Beast from the original standpoint of being the standby. Terry Mann had already been cast as the Beast. One of the producers named Don Franz, who has written books on the whole experience now too, he saw me and thought it would be an excellent Gaston. And so he brought me in for the auditions, and so I eventually got cast as the standby to both Gaston and the Beast. But that basically meant that for Houston, the whole tryout, that I basically stood in the back and watched, right? But it was so me and Jeffrey Katzenberg and Michael Eisner and all the creatives, Cosrin and Alan Menken and everybody, were in the house watching most of the time. So I got to see it evolve. Somebody asked me once, did I mind being the standby? Because I really didn't have a lot to do, right? I didn't have, even if Terry had hurt himself, I couldn't go on. They didn't have costumes for me because it was that new. I mean, they did. They had this, I had like this, they went to some like oversized woman's place, got me this blousy shirt just in case. But I never had to use it. But they asked me if I minded being the standby, and I said, no, it's exactly like being at Disneyland. You know? Yeah, sure, Space Mountain, when it first opened, that line was 2 hours long, but you didn't mind because you knew when you got on. Oh, man, right?
It still is.
That's the way Beauty and the Beast was for me. So once I did get to do it in New York, the first time I ever wore the costume was on The Tonight Show. I got to carry Jay Leno out in the Beast costume. And that was fun. And then I escorted Cindy Crawford out. That was fun, too.
Oh, wow.
But Terry didn't want to do it yet because it was still early enough in the run that the Tony voters hadn't come in. So he wanted to make sure he was giving us 110%. He's excellent. I really enjoy it. But once we got past that phase, then I wouldn't say he missed a lot, but he missed enough that I got to go on many times. And then when they opened the show in Toronto, they asked me if I would open it. So I left the country for a year and a half about and was the premier vet du Canada.
Wow. That's so cool. I mean, your career is just incredible, and even that just kind of sums it up, but you have so much more as well. And when we come back from the break, we're actually going to dive more into those many roles that you've played and talk about the people that you've worked with in terms of Stephen Sondheim and Alan Menken and just all these huge names. So when we come back from the break, it's going to be a good one. We'll see you then.
All right. Thanks, Nick.
Welcome back, everybody. This is part 2 of Chuck Wagner on TADTalk. It's episode 103, and already this episode has been so incredible and informative and enlightening, to be honest with you. And obviously, with the time that we've spent together talking about all the things that you've done in Broadway, the things that really stood out to me are Jekyll and Hyde, Into the Woods, and Beauty and the Beast. Because for Jekyll and Hyde and Into the Woods, you originated both of those parts. And in Jekyll and Hyde, you were the first Jekyll and Hyde. Can you tell us about that?
I was, and also as it evolved, I got to give the pre-Broadway tour credit for the hair transformation. That was Vivian Madelon and Bob Puccioli who ultimately came up with that. The first time I ever did anything for Jekyll and Hyde, Frank Wildhorn started the music, and a guy named Steve Cuden, who still gets story credit for the story, which he had to fight for to get that. But he was great, and we did passes on musicals pretty much of everything. We did Nicholas and Alexandra, we did Romeo and Juliet, we did Caesar and Cleopatra, but Jekyll and Hyde. So like if it had you can look at the storyboard of the titles of Frank's musicals, and pretty much if it's a recognizable title, he's had a chance at writing a musical about it. And he really is remarkably talented. And we would sit for hours at night just singing new songs. And I felt really honored to be part of that. And so when it got time to do the original production on stage, they were going to do it at the Alley Theater. And again, they had talked about Terry Mann possibly playing Dr. Jekyll before me. And he had something else he had to do. And so I was lucky that they let me originate it on stage at the Alley Theater. And it was a huge hit. It was the biggest thing that ever happened. It was actually sponsored by Compaq Computers when they were brand new. So it was a huge banner outside the theater. It was just beautiful the way that they, for a regional theater, they put a lot of money into it. Sets were great. But the way we did the transformation, I mean, the confrontation was because we didn't have the pre-record technology or the video technology that they have today. They thought it would be good to have somebody else sing the Hyde part from a mirror, so it wasn't ideal. So that hadn't fully evolved. So I think when they, by the time I did the post-Broadway tour, I got to be on the cover of In Theater magazine. That was exciting. And then that magazine went out of business, but I promise you it wasn't my fault. And that hair ballet, that the fact that confrontation is something that, and it should have been done internally as an actor fighting with himself. And once they made that breakthrough, to me, that's one of the great moments from that show. Even though maybe musically it's not very complicated. It's just really back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Definitely.
But internally, if you do that right, it's like primal screen therapy. It's, you're fighting with yourself, and it's really exhilarating. So
Absolutely.
To me, that was the breakthrough that made that show so good. And that's why the post-Broadway tour, we did that. We used to call it the Millennial Tour of Jekyll and Hyde. We went everywhere, Canada and all around the United States, with Sharon Brown, who played Lucy. So I had the first mixed race Jekyll and Lucy combination. And she was a powerhouse. And, although you can't beat Lynn Eder, who created the role originally too. That she's got a voice like no other and still sings like nobody else.
Definitely.
But yeah, the strength of Jekyll and Hyde is not so much that it's such a complex play, whereas like Into the Woods stands alone. If you just read the stories, it's real clear. Jekyll and Hyde is a little thin on what actually happens plot-wise, but if you bring the passion and let the music do what it needs to do, it can take you on a fully realized emotional roller coaster, I think.
Definitely. You definitely need some chops in order to do any part in that show, honestly. And Julie and I kind of, when we got together, we gave each other these interests that the other one didn't have. And for me, I was never really into horror movies or anything like that. But as soon as I started dating her, now it's all Halloween and Scream and Texas.
Oh, good. Well, now that's, while we're still talking about Jekyll and Hyde, that's one of the things about it. Gregory Boyd, who was the director at the Alley Theater, was very much into the Grand Guignol. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's a really dark kind of, started as a theater movement like in Paris where they would do these. The theory was, in fact, I think if you see an Interview with the Vampire, where there's like a whole French acting troupe of vampires, that's Grand Guignol as well. It's kind of really stark and really horrific when it gets to the horror part of it. So he was very much into that. That's why we did Jekyll and Hyde one year, and the very next year we came back to the Alley Theater in conjunction with the Oslo Theater in Sarasota and did Svengali, based on George de Maurier's Trilby.
Yeah.
And basically that script, just like with Jekyll and Hyde, they created the script kind of, looking at the old movies and taking scenes from the movies and kind of cobbling it together to make as a starting place to build the musicals. And that was a fascinating time too. And Svengali, to me, is some of Frank's best music too, and it has never made to Broadway yet.
Definitely, I agree. Well, I have a question for you. What of all the musicals that you've heard the music for, what is probably your favorite soundtrack from any musical?
I probably got to say Sweeney Todd.
Sweeney Todd.
I love the music in Sweeney Todd. It's the one show that I could probably sing through the entire show.
Yeah, and that's another Sondheim. And Sondheim is arguably, for me at least, Sondheim is, anything he does turns to gold. Because a lot of writers, musical writers, either only write the music or only write the lyrics. But Sondheim does it all. And and
it's remarkable.
He's incredible. And you worked with Sondheim in Into the Woods.
I did.
You were an originating actor. Can you tell us about that? That must have been incredible to work with a master like him.
Well, it was lucky. When I first auditioned in Los Angeles for Into the Woods, I auditioned for James Lapine. I felt like I had a nice audition, but I didn't get called back. And at the same time, there was a play on Broadway called The Mystery of Edwin Drood. And I loved the role of Jasper in it. I heard the album, I said, I can sing this. So I contacted him. This is right after Autumn, or not too long after Autumn. Because, as I said, the Three Musketeers didn't take that much time. And I wrote the New York Shakespeare Festival and said I'd really like to play Jasper when it comes to the West Coast. And they said, well, and because they knew who I was now, because I was a TV guy at the time. And so they wrote me back and they said, well, that's great. Would you consider replacing Howard McGillen in New York? I said, well, would I consider it? Of course I would consider it. And so I flew to New York. They gave me comps for the ticket to the show. And I got to see backstage. And it was beautiful and everything. And while I was there, my agent was able to get me a second audition for Into the Woods. This time, Stephen was there. And then I did get called back, and then I got cast. So it was Stephen Sondheim that got me cast as the prince. Made me feel very happy about that. And
amazing.
When the first day, some of the stuff had been already written, but by the time it was like maybe a week into the rehearsal that he came in with the music for Agony for us to sing in pencil.
Oh,
Wow.
And I thought,
incredible.
We are doing it now.
I think I already know the answers to this, but you didn't get to keep that, did you?
Oh no, I did not.
That would.
I wish.
That would be incredible. That would be insane.
Yeah, exactly. That was pretty. But he also explained to me that the song is in a barcarolle, and it's bump, 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 and it's like a gentle canter. It's not a gallop, and it's not a walk. It's that moment in between a canter and a walk. And that's the tempo of the Agony, and it should it shouldn't speed up. It shouldn't slow down. These guys are precise. So I thought that's pretty cool.
He's incredible with the way because you don't think about it, but when you realize it, you realize that the music in Into the Woods really lends itself to a storybook type of thing, and with just the rhythm by itself, that's what you kind of expect from if you were watching, the old Jack and the Beanstalk or
sure,
it's just great how he did it, and
it's beautifully arranged too by Jonathan Tunick did the arrangements for this small chamber orchestra, and it's just fantastic.
Definitely. Of all the musicals you've seen live, because we've seen a few together now, which one stands out to you the most? Which one have you enjoyed the most live?
I'm going to say Book of Mormon. I think it was just so funny, and obviously hearing the soundtrack, because you have it on your phone and we listen to it all the time, but seeing it live just added a whole nother level of funny.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
just
cool.
such a fun environment.
Definitely.
Nice.
Do you
now, did you see Hades Town?
No, I've heard so much about it.
Listen, that role of Hades, he sings it so low, Patrick. I wish I could sing that low, but it's just some beautiful stuff. That Why Do We Build the Wall? If you don't know the music, let's Google that from Hades Town. Why Do We Build the Wall? It's very pertinent. It's very current.
I will. I'll definitely check that out. I have a couple more questions for you before we unfortunately have to call it a day. It always goes by so fast, this. But one of them is obviously Into the Woods, and you were in Les Miserables as well. You were in all of these things, all of these shows, and a lot of them have been turned now into films. Mm-hmm. And I want to hear your opinion on what you think, how you think they turned out.
Well, cinematically, it's always a challenge, right? I thought the Into the Woods movie was beautiful to look at. I think they missed the boat on the comedy. Here you have Jack's mother, played by one of the funniest actresses of a generation, and she didn't get a single laugh. And it can be the funniest thing ever, right? So I thought they missed the boat with that. They can't kill Rapunzel because she's a Disney princess now. And so that takes a lot of the pain away from the witch and everybody. It makes the darkness of the black comedy that's in Into the Woods, I think, was missed. But still, it was a beautiful film. Les Mis, I think that they shot themselves in the foot by making all the people sing live to the piano track on the set, because you lose to me, one of the great things about that musical is that underscore continues, and between that and the turntable, that this play never stops. It has a breathing. It has its own kind of life that disjointed was not as effective, and yet there were some really beautiful parts of this film. I thought the Beauty and the Beast film, I thought they took some interesting choices. Making him take the rose, which was a lift from the fairy tale, which I don't know if you ever saw. Did you ever see the French version?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, look, it's called La Belle et la Bête. It's not that old. It's stunningly beautiful. You need to see that.
I will.
But that business of explaining why he wasn't, because in the movie, the animated film, he's like just kidnapped. It's like, you broke in, I'm keeping it, right? There was why? I'm angry today. That's why. I'm having a bad day, and so are you now. So there was a justification to that. I thought I had mixed feelings. I love Hermione Granger. I like Emma Watson. I thought she did fine as Belle, but some of the stuff I could have taken or left. And yet, the new song, what makes a story last forever or something. But there's some really good music. I missed Human again. I wasn't a big fan of the quartet. I get mixed feelings about the period that they set it in. I didn't hate it. It was okay, but then making the prince like a pompous grown-up who already knew how to read and everything took a lot of the simplicity and innocence out of the story from the way we played it. But they're just different choices.
Yeah.
I wasn't crazy about the CGI aspect of the Beast and the Beast's costume. It was like, can't we build a costume? Come on, guys.
Well, definitely.
So it's always a challenge. It's never going to be the same in the cinema as you can do in live theater. And yet at the same time, there's things you can do in the movies that you can't even remotely do on stage. So each has its own, each has the value, and it's good. It helps me that we have those to compare and contrast, because that is easily half an hour of master classes that they give, is discussing the differences. Why this worked on the stage, why this worked or didn't work in the film. So it's always good to see different interpretations of the same base material, right?
Definitely. It's interesting to hear the opinions of people who have seen the live musical and have seen the movie. But for me, it's even more interesting to hear the opinion of someone who's seen the movie but was an integral part of the live musical itself. And that's why I wanted to ask that question, and it was really interesting. I'm glad I asked it. I have one more question.
Well, you and I sang Agony together, so I miss the fact by taking out the second Agony, you take away the arc of the in the movie, right? One of the reasons the second Agony works is because between Act 1 and Act 2, you assume like a year or maybe has passed, right?
Yeah.
Whereas in the movie, it seems like, well, they got married, and then like that weekend, she decides to put on her rags and go back to the woods. She hadn't had time to be bored of being the princess. So there's a lot of the story arcs are, you don't have the fact that it's been a year of Rapunzel's prince dealing with that screaming, right? So you lose a lot.
You lose the line, dwarves are very upsetting.
Absolutely.
Which is upsetting in itself.
Yep.
Well, I have one more question, and it's a question we ask on every TAD Talk, and the answers are always so great, and that's why I love asking it. Sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're heartfelt, but they're always so great, and I'm going to ask you right now.
Okay.
So for the next 60 minutes, the next hour, you can spend it with any two people in the world, dead or alive, anywhere in the world. So the question is, who are you going to spend this next hour with? Where are you going to be? And what are you going to talk about?
That is an interesting question. And it's not current. It could be any time.
It can be any time. It can be anyone you want as well. It can be family members who either with us or past. It can be celebrities or historical figures, whoever you want.
Yeah. So I would like, just to make it a simple thing, because I don't want to go too, but I would like to have met my grandfather, Chester Wagner, started a company called Henny Penny Corporation. And they now, a huge corporation, they're the people that do chicken frying machines for Colonel Sanders and Chick-fil-A. It's gigantic. And my father in his infinite wisdom sold the company. But they used to, back before any of that happened, he and his wife, my grandmother, Mary Wagner, ran a place called the Whispering Oak, a restaurant that was famous for miles around. And I don't know why. I've only seen I've seen a couple of menus and a couple of paper, placemats and stuff like that from the day. But I would go back to when they were young and vibrant. I imagine they must have been at one time, because they weren't when I knew them. My grandfather died when he was 60, and that's when I was 6. So I never got to see him. But I'd like to have seen, because for him to launch that idea and it become such a big company, there must have been something special about him. So I'd like to just go and be a guest at that restaurant, and them not know who I was, and see how they got by. And then I'd either be pleasantly surprised or absolutely horrified. One or the other. Then I would know.
Oh, that's awesome. That would be really cool. I
Yeah.
love that. Well, Chuck, this has been an amazing episode. It's so awesome hearing your career and your experiences. And I know the audience, the comments are flooding in. And the social wall, if we look at that real quick before we say
There it is.
goodbye, Chuck is over there on the left-hand side.
Oh, nice.
Look
Very
at that.
nice.
And if you want to become a part of this social wall, there's another one of Chuck. You can hashtag
Nice.
TADTalk, and you might see your comment show up on that social wall on this episode or a next one. So, Chuck, once again, thank you so much for being
Hey,
with
listen,
us today.
thank you guys so much. Thanks. I'm constantly thrilled to be a part of the TAD team. I'm looking forward to getting back to work. In the meantime, just a shout out to to Jeff Bezos and the company at Amazon for giving me employment during this lockdown here at home. So I'm enjoying that very much, and it makes me very lucky in this. There's so many aspects of our industry that are shut down, from the teaching to the performing, that it's going to be tough for the next several months. So I feel blessed to have that. So if you have any problem with something you ordered at Amazon, give us a call. You might get me.
Sounds good. I think the Amazon delivery guy knows us by name now. We've splurged a little bit during this.
Listen, it's not hurting. I mean, if anything, it's almost overwhelming, the business, because everybody orders from home now, and it's makes the delivery a little more complicated.
Absolutely.
I just can hardly wait till the Christmas season.
Absolutely. Well, once again, this has been episode 103 with Chuck Wagner. We'll be back tomorrow with episode 104 on Wednesday tomorrow, and it's going to be another great one. So we'll see you then. Thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Julia, for being
And thanks, and congratulations to you. I'm expecting to see you guys married soon. When is that happening?
August 18th, 2021.
All right, you're pacing it. You're pacing it. Fair enough. All right. All right, it was a pleasure. Thanks, guys. Go on, Tad forever.
Absolutely. Tad strong. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good one.
All right, bye-bye.